It was supposed to be a routine evening at a Washington gala. It became one of the most alarming security incidents of Donald Trump's presidency, and has now been woven directly into the narrative of the war with Iran in ways that are reshaping the diplomatic landscape in real time. On the night of Saturday, April 25th, President Donald Trump was attending the annual dinner of the Association of State Secret Service Agents at the Washington Hilton Hotel, a venue that carries its own dark historical resonance as the site of the 1981 assassination attempt on President Ronald Reagan. Approximately 2,600 people were in attendance. The program had barely begun, roughly 20 minutes in, when gunfire erupted outside the building. A man had breached a security barrier in the hotel's courtyard and opened fire. Secret Service agents responded immediately, exchanging fire with the gunman before apprehending him without further incident. One Secret Service agent sustained an injury in the confrontation, but was able to continue performing his protective duties. President Trump, surrounded by senior aides, including close advisors, was briefly seen taking a defensive posture before being quickly and securely evacuated by his protection detail. The suspect was identified by the United States Department of Justice as Caldera Allen, 31 years old, a resident of Atlanta, Georgia, originally from California, employed as a teacher in the city of Tan, California. He now faces federal charges of conspiracy to commit and attempted murder of a United States leader, charges that carry severe penalties under federal law. Trump's response: defiance and determination. President Trump returned to the White House following the incident and addressed reporters directly, his tone measured, his message unambiguous. He would not be stopping the war with Iran. He would not be withdrawing. He was winning. Trump stated that intelligence community assessments are actively investigating whether the attack was connected to the ongoing conflict with Iran, specifically whether the gunman was motivated by a desire to force the United States to withdraw from the war. Trump said he did not know with certainty whether the attack was Iran-related, but noted that the question was being taken seriously by investigators. Regardless of the answer, he said, the outcome would be the same. This incident, whatever its origin and whatever its motivation, would not alter American policy, would not change American strategy, and would not stop what he characterized as a winning campaign against the Islamic Republic. He praised the Secret Service for their immediate and effective response, while also expressing frustration with the security arrangements at the Hilton, questioning how a gunman managed to breach the security perimeter of an event attended by the President of the United States. The Pakistan peace mission. Canceled in the same breath as his response to the assassination attempt, Trump delivered a second announcement with significant diplomatic consequences. He is canceling plans to send the American special envoy to Pakistan for another round of indirect talks with Iran. Trump's reasoning was practical and pointed. The trip from the United States to Pakistan takes 15 hours. The previous visit produced nothing: no agreement, no progress, no meaningful exchange that could not have been accomplished through other channels. Iran's foreign minister had left Pakistan before the American delegation fully arrived. The entire exercise, in Trump's assessment, was a waste of time, resources, and political capital. Going forward, Trump stated, the United States will wait for Iran to make contact. Washington is not going to send delegations across the world to sit in rooms that the other side has already vacated. If Iran wants to talk, if Iran is genuinely prepared to negotiate in good faith, it knows how to reach the United States. Until that call comes, the American position remains fixed. Naval forces stay in the Strait of Hormuz, sanctions stay in place, and military options remain fully available. The cancellation of the Pakistan mission effectively closes the most recent diplomatic channel between Washington and Tehran, leaving the two sides further apart than they have been at any point since the ceasefire was announced. 58 days of war, the balance sheet. The conflict between the United States and Iran has now entered its 58th day since the initial strikes launched on February 28th. 40 of those days involved active, continuous joint combat operations between American and Israeli forces, a sustained air and naval campaign of extraordinary scale and intensity. The strategic objectives of that campaign were defined from the outset as the degradation of Iran's military power and the reduction of the Tehran regime's capacity to threaten its neighbors, close international waterways, and support proxy forces across the region. By the metrics that Washington and Jerusalem have publicly articulated, the campaign achieved significant results. 10 senior Iranian generals were killed in targeted strikes during the 40-day active phase, a decapitation of military leadership that has disrupted the command structure of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps and created coordination challenges that Iranian forces are still working to overcome. Nearly 50 senior Iranian leaders and military commanders were killed or incapacitated across the course of the campaign, losses that represent a generational blow to the institutional knowledge and leadership capacity of Iran's armed forces. The campaign also produced what American officials have described as one of the most consequential single events of the conflict, the death of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on February 28, the opening day of the conflict. Khamenei had led the Islamic Republic for more than 3 decades and served as the ultimate political, religious, and military authority of the Iranian state. His death, the result of strikes on the opening day of the American and Israeli campaign, represents a seismic event in Iranian political history, the full consequences of which continue to unfold. The Islamic Republic's government and the Revolutionary Guard Corps have condemned the attacks in the strongest possible terms, characterizing the killing of Khamenei and the strikes on Iranian territory as acts of criminal aggression under international law. Among the segments of the Iranian population that retain loyalty to the Islamic Republic, sentiment has hardened against the United States and Israel, fueling domestic cohesion around resistance, even as the regime's military capabilities have been severely degraded. The economic stranglehold tightens beyond the military dimension of the campaign. The United States has been waging an equally consequential economic war against Iran, one that is now imposing costs measured in hundreds of millions of dollars per day. American naval forces have effectively sealed the Gulf of Oman, blocking both the entry and exit corridors of the Gulf and preventing Iranian oil tankers from departing Iranian ports with their cargoes. 4 Iranian oil tankers have been seized by the U.S. Navy in recent weeks. Dozens more have been turned back or are stranded in Iranian waters, unable to reach international buyers. The result of this blockade is an estimated daily revenue loss for the Iranian government of approximately $430 million. Oil, which constitutes the overwhelming majority of Iran's foreign exchange earnings and government revenue, is effectively trapped inside Iranian territory. Without the ability to export, production must slow. Without production revenue, the government budget contracts. Without budget revenue, military salaries, social programs, and the machinery of the state begin to strain. Trump has pointed to this economic pressure as a central element of his strategy, arguing that Iran's oil infrastructure, unable to export and running out of storage capacity, faces the prospect of irreversible underground damage if the blockade continues. He has characterized this as the clock running out on Iran, a deadline imposed not by diplomacy, but by the physical limits of oil storage capacity and production system pressure. Iran's contradictory position. Peace and defiance simultaneously. Tehran's public posture in response to all of this is one of the most complex and internally contradictory positions any government has attempted to maintain in a modern conflict. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has stated that Iran wants peace with the United States. He has also stated that Iran will not negotiate while American warships patrol the Strait of Hormuz. He has demanded that Washington withdraw its naval forces as a precondition for any talks. He has simultaneously maintained that Iran has not surrendered and will not surrender to American pressure. This contradiction, wanting peace but refusing the conditions under which peace can be negotiated, reflects the genuine and deep internal tension within Iran's fractured leadership structure. The elected government, represented by Pezeshkian and his foreign ministry, appears to understand the economic and military reality confronting Iran, and to recognize that some form of agreement with Washington is necessary for the country's survival. The Revolutionary Guard, which operates with considerable independence and whose institutional interests are bound up with the perpetuation of the conflict, appears far more resistant to the concessions that any realistic agreement would require. Washington is reading Iran's signals carefully. Trump stated publicly that he perceives Iran as giving signs of wanting peace and expressed cautious confidence that an agreement remains reachable. But he was equally clear that any agreement will be reached only on American terms. The United States will not pay war damages to Iran. It will not withdraw its warships as a precondition. It will not accept a nuclear-capable Iran. And it will not allow Iran to continue supporting proxy forces that threaten American allies and American interests across the Middle East. 30 warships and growing, America's regional presence. The scale of America's military presence across the Middle East has reached levels not seen in the post-Afghanistan era. More than 30 American warships, including multiple aircraft carrier strike groups, destroyers, guided missile cruisers, and support vessels, are now deployed across the Mediterranean Sea, the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aden, the Arabian Sea, and the Strait of Hormuz. The geographic spread of that deployment is deliberate, designed to give the United States the ability to respond to Iranian military action across an enormous arc of territory, while simultaneously maintaining the economic blockade that is strangling Iran's oil revenues. The carriers bring hundreds of combat aircraft within striking range of Iranian territory. The destroyers and cruisers provide layered missile defense for American forces and Allied shipping. And the submarines, operating below the surface and largely invisible to Iranian tracking, provide persistent strike capability that Iran cannot easily target or neutralize. Trump has stated clearly that these ships are not leaving until Iran accepts the conditions necessary for a genuine and lasting agreement. The Strait of Hormuz will remain under American naval control. Iranian oil will remain embargoed. And the full weight of American military power will remain forward deployed and ready to resume combat operations the moment the president determines that diplomacy has exhausted its possibilities. A president under fire, literally and figuratively. The assassination attempt on Saturday night adds a deeply unsettling dimension to an already extraordinarily tense situation. A sitting American president was targeted outside a Washington hotel in the middle of an ongoing war by a gunman whose motivations are still being investigated. Federal charges have been filed, intelligence assessments are underway, and the president himself has publicly connected the attempt, however tentatively, to the war he is waging against Iran. Whether or not that connection is ultimately established by investigators, the political consequences are already evident. Trump emerged from the incident more resolute, not less. His public statements since Saturday have been some of the most uncompromising of the entire conflict, canceling the Pakistan mission, declaring victory in the war, refusing to entertain any suggestion of retreat, and making clear that threats against his person will have precisely the opposite of their intended effect. For a president who has built his political identity around projecting strength and defiance in the face of opposition, an assassination attempt, real or attempted, is not a moment of vulnerability. It is a moment that reinforces the narrative of a leader under siege from enemies who fear what he is accomplishing. Whether that narrative serves the cause of peace in the Strait of Hormuz, or whether it makes compromise and de-escalation harder to achieve, remains to be seen. What is certain is that the war with Iran is now 58 days old. The president who started it has just survived what may have been an attempt on his life, and he has made absolutely clear to his country, to his allies, to his enemies, and to whoever sent that gunman to the Washington Hilton that he has no intention of stopping.